This is a Let's Find Out with co-host Diego flashback episode.
Everything in this universe has a beginning. The Big Bang. The formation of nebular matter into stars and planets. The first collections of amino acids in the Earth's oceans. The first creatures to leave them. The first mammals. The first primates that walked upright. The first religion. The first printing press.
Pump up your space boots and phone home. It's time for Let's Find Out with co-host Diego.
Live. To tape from the mothership. It's Let's Find Out with co-host Diego. Bigfoot, UFOs, Stargates, Let's Find Out. Paranormal, intelligent design, entertainment, Let's Find Out. You're listening to Let's Find Out with co-host Diego.
I have a very interesting person that I met a few weeks ago at the Virginia Bigfoot Con in Staunton, Virginia, and crazy nice guy. Signed my book, and I love having my book signed. We're going to get into this. The author of Bigfoot and Other Tales of the Supernatural, Josh Pritchett Jr. I'm happy to talk to you once again.
Hey, Diego. Thanks for having me on. Great to talk to you again.
Sure, man. And for those who don't know, I actually attend these conferences. I met a lot of great researchers and speakers and authors, but we struck up a conversation, became quick friends, and then you're actually one of the few authors right now, and I'm actually starting a collection that have actually signed my book, so I really appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Thanks for coming by and buying the book, and I hope you enjoy it. It was a true labor of love, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, the cover is fantastic. The artwork is very retro. It's beautiful, and I like the quality of the book as well. And of course, I like the autograph you put on it. And I know that people can download it and get it through Amazon on their Kindle. But honestly, brother, I'm one of those that like holding a book in my hands and then just start reading away.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've never bought a Kindle. I've tried reading a few books on my phone, and it's okay, but I like to just log off from technology now and again and just read an actual physical book. I'm the same way with my comic books. I still actually buy physical comic books, and even though I know that there was a movement to digitalize all of that, and I know some creators are just going all digital because of print costs and other things. So, but I wanted to give people the option to have both, either online or physical copies. And some people asked me at the Bigfoot conference, do I have the book on audio? And I said, no, I don't, because they like to read the book on the road. And I've thought about, seeing about what I could do there with something like either just make my own podcast and read each story individually, and then create new short stories as I go along. But I just have, I'm still researching that. A friend of mine who has helped me publish a lot of other stories, she talked about her own experiences publishing audiobooks, and said, it's just a lot about getting the right reader and hiring professionals and things like that. I'm still looking at it. I'm still new to this, publishing thing, or at least self-publishing. I've had a number of other short stories published over the past 10 years, and I'm just always thrilled when I can, this is my first, completely solo work, and so it feels really good.
Yeah, I mean, you did a terrific job. And before we get into your current book, Bigfoot and Other Tales of the Supernatural, we talked earlier before we started the interview that you have other works that have been published, other short stories. Yes. What were they about? What were they called?
Well, the first thing I got published is actually because the rights to it went back to me, was a short story called Wrappings, which is in this anthology. It's the first story in there. Because it was the first thing I got published, I decided to make it the first one in the book, and I sold that in 2015 to an anthology called Bones 3. Apparently it was the third book in this anthology series, and I was very proud of that. I sold that. What I'm best known for is I have published now 6 stories with the anthology series Brave New Girls, which is young adult science fiction. All proceeds to this, every sale of the anthology, go to STEM, which is science and technology and engineering and mathematics. And it's meant to encourage young women to seek careers in those fields. The first 5 stories I've written about a character named Madison Brown, who is called the robot repair girl, who goes around and liberates robots from humans. They're, and helping them out, kind of running an underground railroad for robots. And then I've started a new character because Madison has kind of grown up and grown out of the series. So this one is called Itzel. She's an alien called a Liak, and she is heading off to the Space Academy in this new story that's coming out in July, Brave New Girls Volume 6. And she and this other person become marooned on an alien planet, and they are stalked by alien creatures that resemble chupacabras, basically. So that was a real fun story to write. I wrote that over Christmas and sent it in to my editor, and she really liked it. So I'm excited to see it in print in a couple of weeks. So I also have another short story that's not in this anthology. But it went to an anthology called The Fans Are Buried, which is edited by Peter David, New York Times bestseller. And essentially it's based off of an incident that he and I were involved in back in 2003. We got snowed in at a convention in Maryland. Late last year, he had the idea to write an anthology about it, to talk. And basically, the anthology is a series of short stories told by people who are in their costumes and telling stories based on the characters they're dressed as. And I wrote one about a supervillain, because supervillains are sometimes the most interesting characters in comic books.
Yes.
But as far as Bigfoot and Other Tales of the Supernaturals goes, they're all original horror fiction. Most of the stories do center around Bigfoot, but we've also got stories about haunted houses, haunted spaceships, a haunted food truck, which I had a lot of fun writing about, because I don't think I'd ever heard of a story about a haunted food truck. And then we've got, a vampire story and a werewolf story and at least one zombie story and a few other stories that I hope people will enjoy. Like I said, it's available on Amazon and Kindle. And I will be selling copies at the Shore Leave Star Trek convention in 2 weeks in Hunt Valley, Maryland. So if you're going to be there, there's going to be a lot of great guests. So come on by, and I'll be happy to sign your book, or sell you a book and sign it for you right there.
Interesting, because I know a lot of the pre-show stuff is actually more of the interesting stories that we tell before we even start recording on the show. So you talk about the Star Trek convention. I was telling you about the story back in '95 when Mr. DeVore, my partner here on the show, we took a road trip to Middletown, Ohio.
Yeah.
And we stopped by a regular visitor center or a truck stop, and it was a big sign that says free coffee for truckers. So, well, we're not truckers, but let's go. Maybe they'll feel pity on us. We'll get some coffee. Darn it, if the 2 people that were there serving the coffee, great, nice people, were dressed in full-fledged Klingon outfits, speaking the language. It was terrific. I'd never seen, and I've never been to a convention. I don't know anybody that does cosplay, but man, they were right on the money. So, second part to that is because when I was looking up your profile on Facebook, I see you dressed as a Klingon, and man, straight out of the motion picture. So, and you say you do some cosplay. How did that start? And you also speak fluent Klingon.
Yes.
My man. So how did that start? I mean that's got to be harder than learning any other language.
Yeah, it is, because unlike say Spanish or French or German, there are not a lot of other people that speak Klingon actively. So it's kind of hard to get immersed in it. There have been short-lived institutes where fans have gotten together and try to study together, but it takes a lot of time and commitment. I know speaking Klingon is far more active in Germany, as a matter of fact. There are a lot of Klingon speakers over in Germany right now, but that makes sense because some of the sounds and dialects Klingon are loosely based off of German. Mark Okren, who created the Klingon language for Star Trek III: The Search for Spock, he really came up with a lot of this stuff, and then later put it all down in a dictionary. I currently use duolingo.com, and I study it every day, and I practice, and I try to learn new words, come up with new phrases and things like that. As to how I got into cosplaying as a Klingon and things, it was mostly my love of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I was drawn to the character of Lieutenant Worf, who is the tactical and security officer, head of security for the Enterprise D. And I liked his character. He just was so interesting and so well done, and I knew a lot of other people like to dress as Klingons at conventions. So I started learning how to make my own foreheads and put together costumes. And of course, the language came later because, you're always asked when you're in costume, hey, can you speak Klingon? And, well, yeah, now I can, yes. So I just can rattle off a lot of phrases and, for the most part, try to be conversational with a lot of people. But it's something I wish I could have learned this when I was a little kid. But when I was a little kid, there's no Klingon language. So not really. It was just some words that were spoken in the movies. But you get what I'm saying is that I really enjoy it. I mean, it is a lot of time to put the stuff on, but it's so much fun when people see you and they're just so impressed by you and they want to take pictures, and it's awesome. It's great to stand out like that.
Yeah, I mean, I will say you did a hell of a job on that costume. So
thank you. Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. And so I know I'm only guessing because you and I probably grew up in the same times, because I love science fiction. I was a big Battlestar Galactica fan. I think it was the greatest thing. Buck Rogers or Gil Gerard. Maybe later in 89, 90 with Star Trek TNG. I'm not much of a Star Wars guy. I know that's a very unpopular thing to say. Transformers, Thundercats, stuff like that. It was always been my thing. When you take all that and you including, I'm assuming your interest from an entertainment side of it with the paranormal or, supernatural stuff, which leads me to your book. How much of that, of your love of sci-fi, goes into bringing up and making these stories like this in this book?
Yeah. Well, my interest in Bigfoot began in the late 70s when I stumbled across a television show called In Search Of that was hosted by Leonard Nimoy. And, of course, being a huge Star Trek fan since I was a little kid, I watched it because, Spock was hosting it. And it was very interesting what he talked about. And so I got interested. I mean, I knew of Bigfoot. I think I might have seen the Patterson Gimli film before. I knew there was a lot about it, but I think that was what really solidified my interest was seeing Leonard Nimoy talk about it on television. In some ways that I am inspired, there's one story in the collection, a guy he's on a courier run across the solar system, and he comes across a derelict spaceship and it's kind of this idea I have of sort of a Star Trek-esque kind of storytelling, and it was a lot of fun to write that story. I'm delving more. In fact, the character I was telling you about, Itzel, is kind of from that universe. So I'm building my own universe in the tradition of people like Gene Roddenberry and J. Michael Straczynski at Babylon 5 and such. And of course George Lucas. So
you mentioned Babylon 5. I can't say I met many people that really are fans of Babylon 5. It's hard to really get into it. I guess you got to give it a season or two before you really start following. Yeah.
You had to get past the first season and then into the second season when the Narn Centauri War begins, and then the shadows start showing up. That's when it gets really interesting. And then season 3, it blows your mind after that. You can't stop watching it. I know now, of course, the special effects. a few years ago, I tried watching it on a high definition TV, and I was like, oh my god, the special effects look awful. I thought these things were awesome 20 years ago. So,
Everything was back then, I guess. Something I also got into, and I guess by today's standards is considered to be okay, Farscape, man. I think it was a very brilliant series.
Oh yeah, Ben Browder, Claudia Black. Yeah, I love that show. I was really into that. Yeah, I actually got to meet the guy who played Scorpio.
He's the best thing on the show.
Yeah. Oh, he was such a great villain, and that costume was, that was incredible. That the whole suit and the face and everything. I think it took about 6 hours to get him into all of that. It was mind blowing how much work they had to put in on that. And Dargo, man, that guy was something. All those tentacles and everything they had to put on him. That was an all day thing. Although I don't know what it was they were doing with that makeup jobs though, because a number of actors developed real health problems afterwards. Virginia Hay, who was on the show, she actually her liver was damaged as a result of the paint they were using to create her character.
Wow, maybe that paint was tainted with lead or something, or were they country of origin unknown, right? Where they coming from?
I don't know. I mean, of course, they were filming the show in Australia, so it's hard to say what was going on there at the time. It was a great show. I still really stand by it, and it was so. Because of course they had some of the artists who worked on Alien. They came over to Henson Productions. Yeah, of course you never know. I mean, Henson Productions is now owned by Disney, so there might come a point in the next 10 years where somebody remembers that Farscape and they're like, hey, we should bring that show back, because it might be fun to see it again.
It could be, but
I'd love to see it. Yeah, it was so cool.
It was an interesting love story too, to boot.
Oh yeah. But I think the use of people and prosthetics and also aliens that were actually puppets was a great combo at the time.
Yeah, you had to rely on CGI or anything like that.
Because the CGI was. I mean, if you could get the big budget stuff like what they have for Jurassic Park or Terminator 2, it looks great. But like if you looked at the early CGI on shows like Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, that was awful.
I was just thinking about that. It's one of my favorite shows, and if you can get past that Clash of the Titans kind of stuff, it's actually a very entertaining show, at least for me.
Yeah. I mean, it was well written. That and Xena were both very well written shows, I think.
Just as popular, almost as popular as Kevin Sorbo's show.
Yeah. But I mean, of course, you had, you were dealing with somebody as incredibly talented, a director and writer has, I'm blanking on his name right now. The guy who just directed Doctor Strange.
It was Sam Raimi, wasn't it?
Sam Raimi, yeah, that was it. Yeah, he's a pretty incredible guy. So the first two Spider-Man movies and the Evil Dead movies, and I mean, he also co-wrote. A lot of people forget he co-wrote the first two Batman movies too.
And my unpopular opinion, the first two Spider-Man movies are the ones that matter. But anyway, getting back.
I liked all the Tom Holland ones too.
Yeah,
I think Tom was awesome. So.
Yeah, but a lot of unpopular opinions. That's all opinions. Just whatever is entertaining to you. But let's get back to. I know I'm talking about the influences, but I know that was there something about in your life that said, hey, let me pick this. And I know we talked about the Bigfoot film from back in the 50s, but is there something else to it that brought this out of you? I mean, other than love of science fiction and the unknown, because I was a big fan of In Search of. Also, one of my favorite episodes was the Atlantis episode. Is there something else deeper that got you to write about this outside of that?
It's just I love being creative, and I've always loved horror and ghost stories. When I first started writing Bigfoot stories, I didn't want it to be just another Jason Voorhees, though. I wanted to come up with something a little bit more original. And I think I've succeeded. A lot of people who've read it have enjoyed the stories. But I don't have an agenda when it comes to Bigfoot. I'm not trying to prove the existence of Bigfoot. I just want to write interesting stories. And if somebody shows up, and they find a body and they bring it on television and it's obviously real, okay, great, awesome. That's amazing to know that Bigfoot really is real. But I mean, it's fine if it isn't either. It's great mythology. It's been passed down for generations, even before the Patterson Gimli, or a lot of other things where people have claimed that Bigfoot was involved or something, or that they had seen the Bigfoot. I think we have to be curious and objective at the same time, because there are some people who play hoaxes. But I think, I'm kind of on the camp that believes the Patterson Gimli film is genuine. I think I've seen a lot of things about it. But as far as other things that why I write what I write, it's just I just have always been drawn to scary things. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to watch scary movies on television. And of course, I was always drawn to science fiction like Star Trek and Star Wars. So, it's just how I'm built. I just like horror and science fiction. Those are my big things.
How has the book been received so far?
Well, the people that have bought it and sent me reviews have genuinely liked it. We would like to get more sales up, obviously. At the Bigfoot conference, I sold every copy I had, so I was very proud of myself. So that was a good feeling. I mean, I went in thinking I'd be happy if I sold 10 copies, and I sold every copy I had. So that day, that was over 20 books. So that was exciting. I'm glad that people read it, or that they bought it, and that I hope they'll read it and tell me later, hey, love your book. Stories are great, that sort of stuff. And, just put it up like on Amazon or something and let people know. And that way, when, people might be interested in reading horror short stories or Bigfoot, they'll know to go there, and they'll see all these like, these people gave it a 5-star review or a 4-star review and really liked it, so that's always a good feeling.
For lack of better words, you had a lot of competition there because there were other authors there as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people selling their merchandise, and they're also the speakers as well. So selling your whole inventory of books that you brought that day, that's a hell of a good job, man.
Yeah. Well, I think I had to hustle a little bit there, and I had to really, convince people, and I think also I was also giving away free posters too. I think that also helped.
Oh, and I got mine autographed by you. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Diego. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was really a lot of fun, and I was just glad it was so well received, and that people were real curious about it. I hope in a couple weeks when I go to shore leave, I'll find more people that are just as curious. So, like I said, if anybody's interested, I will be at shore leave all weekend, and I'll even be dressed for at least two days at shore leave. Farpoint's another convention I go to, but I hope that people will come over and say hi and take pictures of me. I'll even be wearing a new Klingon costume I'm in the process of making. So come by and get pictures of that and talk to me about my book, talk to me about what I'm writing, and I'm happy to do it. I just and if you've even got a Bigfoot experience you want to share, I'll listen to you, no problem.
Well, which leads me to the next question I was going to ask you, and I'm not going to put you on the spot because I'm not that kind of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Being at the convention where we met a few weeks ago in Staunton, and I'm sure you may have gotten to talk a little bit to some of the people who attended, or the researchers and authors and the speakers that were there. Was there anything in there you're thinking may sway you a little bit more towards the possibility, or it got you to think once or twice about, maybe there's something to this?
Well, I already think there's something to it. I do think that, like I said, I believe in the possibility of Bigfoot. My only thing is, I would love to see definitive proof. I'd love to see somebody bring in a live Bigfoot or a dead Bigfoot body and have it examined by actual scientists and prove that once for all, yes, there is heretofore undocumented primate species that roams North America. And I'd love to know, I'd love proof one way or the other. I don't think they'll ever disprove Bigfoot, but I'd love to have definitive proof once and for all that he exists. And that would be, pretty awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I want to see the same things as you do. So the book, Bigfoot and Other Tales of the Supernatural available through Amazon, or they can go to the conventions and talk to you with or without the outfit. It'd be awesome to see you in it.
Oh yeah.
Coming up on the following this book, and I know you have something else coming out. What are the plans for the next one? What can we be looking forward to?
Well, I'm working on a couple of different novels. Like I've said, I've got this new story for Brave New Girls anthology coming out also in 2 weeks. I am working on a number of projects. Some of them might be anthology based. I do have an idea for just a full Bigfoot novel that's kind of like Heart of Darkness, Apocalypse Now, about people searching for Bigfoot, and it is kind of more in that genre because Apocalypse Now is a terrific film, amazing movie. It's disturbing, but it's an amazing film, and I would probably like to tell a story sort of in that same manner of people who go looking for Bigfoot and see what happens. So I don't really go into a lot of details about what I'm writing about because I always just think that's bad luck. So
I agree. Never tell people your plans. Just go ahead and write it and release it and see how it goes.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll do that and see how it goes. And I'm just looking forward to it. And I think once things calm down after this next convention, I think I'll be able to get really going. Between having a full-time job and everything else I'm in, it can be difficult at times.
I understand. I'm having all these projects myself, full-time job, and doing all these other commitments. It can really take a bite out of your sleeping schedule, but that's all right though. We suffer for our art, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and so sometimes it's a lot of sleep deprivation, and sometimes it's just you're just kind of in your own zone, and you turn off the telephone, and you don't talk to people. It's you got to focus on it. So there's a lot of things you put aside for a little while you're working on things.
I agree. And for the listeners that I know that we can get the book through Amazon, the Kindle, and they can also contact you directly also on Facebook as well?
Yes, that's correct. Yes,
Yeah.
Josh Pritchett Jr. on Facebook, and you can reach out to me there and tell me what you think. And of course, we can always use a lot of good reviews on Amazon because that definitely gets more people coming to that page on Amazon that has the book. Anybody, people want to go there and tell people what they think, that'd be awesome.
Definitely be awesome. Please give the book a chance. Take a look at it. Before we go, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on the show. And I'm happy to have met you at the convention, and hopefully on the next one you'll be there as well. And maybe next year or the next convention your new book will come out and I can get me another awesome autographed copy of it.
I look forward to it, buddy.
Thank you for listening to Let's Find Out with co-host Diego. We're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, Pocket Casts, and on Anchor. For more information about Let's Find Out with co-host Diego, please visit us on Facebook.com/co-host Diego, on Twitter at co-host_Diego, and on Instagram as co-host Diego. Copyright co-host Diego. All content for Let's Find Out is the property of co-host Diego and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, co-host Diego, or Let's Find Out. The information shared on Let's Find Out is provided on an as-is basis with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.